think people undervalue the importance of the first 2 minutes of a podcast. Those first 2 minutes are not a place to warm up. They're a place where you earn attention, and they're a place where the listener will decide whether they're going to stick with you or turn off. So here's 5 things that I see done all the time that I highly recommend you don't do in the opening moments of a podcast. Number 1 is saying, hello, everybody. Now, this might sound small, but I think it matters, and let me explain why. Podcasts are listened to alone, on headphones, on walks, in cars, at the gym. It's an extremely personal medium. It's probably the most personal medium in the world. So when you say hello, everybody, you're talking to a group that doesn't really exist. It instantly creates distance. And I much prefer when somebody speaks to me as one person because I'm consuming this on my own. So, hey, thanks for being here. I love what Mel Robbins does. Hey, it's your friend Mel. Or Jay Klaus says, hello, my friend. And that just feels right because that's how podcasts are actually consumed. The thing here as well is the vast majority of people actually do say hello, everybody. So making that subtle change will just separate you from so much of the competition. Number 2, in those first 2 minutes, do not ask for ratings. Do not ask for follows. Do not ask for website visits. And worst of all, do not try and sell something. This is such a big one. A lot of new podcasters realize they're in a competitive space. So the very first thing they do, because it's important, is ask for something. Subscribe, leave a review. It helps the podcast. Visit my website. If you want more, buy this course. But at that point, you haven't given the listener anything yet. You haven't given them enough value and you don't have the credibility to ask for anything back. A call to action only works after value, never before it. So let me make this simple. You came here with the promise of getting 5 things you should never say in the first 2 minutes of a podcast. How would you feel if I opened this video by talking about myself, by talking about my podcast production company, by talking about all the things that I can do and explaining my background and then asking for a comment and a like and subscribe? I've not given you anything yet. Think about that scenario. What would you do? It's pretty simple. You just click off. So don't think that people aren't doing that if you're trying to self-serve in the opening moments of a podcast and ask for things before you've given value first. So what you've got to do if you've got call to actions is place them strategically where people are more likely to respond. So you got to dig into your episode and find out what are the most powerful moments. You think there's a moment that was genuinely helpful for your ideal listener. Right after that is the moment to place your call to action because that's the moment where somebody is more likely to act because you've just given them free value. That's how trust works. Number 3, don't talk about yourself or give updates on your life. This one's pretty simple, but nobody clicked here to hear what you've been up to in the last week. They clicked because they want to get something out of the episode. So that doesn't mean you can't be human, but it means the opening isn't the place for your updates or rambling or life experience. That can go into the episode if it's relevant, if it comes up. But again, you got to put the listener front of mind here. And what are they doing when they come here? They're thinking, what's in it for me? So answer that first. Number 4, explaining what the podcast is about in too much detail. So this is like an elevator pitch for the podcast on a whole. And this is really important because so many people do this. So if I was doing a podcast about helping podcasters, this is what my generic pitch intro might sound like. Welcome to the show where we explore how podcasts actually grow by speaking to the hosts and creators who've made them work. Now that sentence is fine. But problem 1 is that it's too generic. And problem 2 is that the sentence should be already done by your cover art and your title and your thumbnail. So once somebody's clicked play, they don't need that overview again. What they need is a reason to stay. So a better way to start that example would be instead of leading with a podcast description, is to lead with the value of this specific episode. In this episode, we're going to break down why overproduced podcasts struggle to grow and why raw focused episodes consistently outperform them. Or in this episode, you're going to learn why spending money on gear before you have clarity is one of the fastest ways to stall a podcast. So now the listener knows exactly why they should keep listening. Remember that every second counts. And think of it this way. Your cover art, your title, your thumbnail, they'll explain the show or enough about it. Your intro explains why this episode matters. And if you get that right, you don't need long intros, you don't need branding statements or warm-ups. You'll earn attention immediately. So number 5 is giving a long guest biography. Even if your guest is impressive, this loses people fast because reading out a CV or a biography doesn't create interest, it creates boredom. The listener doesn't care where your guest worked and all the different things they've done. They only care about the relevant bits, the bits that are going to help them with the specific challenge they have. So instead of listing credentials, tell the listener, what is the problem this person helped solve? And why are they worth listening to for this topic? One sentence of credibility is enough, but it's got to be relevant. The rest should be about the value that's coming. Number 6 is somewhat related, but don't ask the guest to introduce themselves. This is the most popular first question on podcasts. Tell me about yourself, or why don't you introduce yourself to the listener? When you ask a guest to introduce themselves, you guarantee a boring answer because they'll probably go chronological and they'll list roles and they'll get flustered. And nobody really wants to talk about themselves and have such an open-ended question, and momentum is generally gone. It's not your guest's job to introduce themselves. It's your job to frame why they matter to the listener. Open up with a question that drops straight into the heart of the topic, the tension, or the insight. That's what's going to keep somebody listening. The first 2 minutes decide whether somebody stays or leaves. A download, a listen, a view means nothing if the person has clicked and then clicked off in the first couple of minutes. You've not engaged them. Podcasting is so personal. So you got to speak to that one person, that ideal listener. You got to keep them in mind. And that is why niching down and knowing who your listener is and your target listener is so important. But you got to speak to that one person and put them front of mind with everything you do in the opening moments. Give the value early. If you do that, I promise you, you'll be ahead of so many podcasts out there.